Raise your fists together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody, somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Hey, welcome to the Saturday Morning Forum. This is Reverend William Hall. I'm grateful to be with you. Even though COVID has us not in the headquarters today, we're grateful that we're in your home. We're grateful in your TV, your radio. We're grateful that we're on your cell phone and your laptop. Before we go forward, we want you to share this with someone. Text somebody, tweet somebody, even share this. Because today we want to dedicate this broadcast to the life and the legacy of Jim Hill. Lafayette Gatlin of Gatlin Funeral Home, Maxine McNair, the four little girls, Betty White, Sam Jones of the Boston Celtics, Senator Majority Leader Harry Reid, and Frank Ziccarelli. We're grateful for their life and their legacy, and we're praying for their families. But we want to say we're grateful for the living as well. We're thankful for Mark Morial, the CEO of the Urban League, and last but not least, he is an extension of Miss Jacqueline Jackson and Reverend Jackson, Jonathan Luther Jackson. Happy birthday to those two giants. And so listen, we're getting ready to go forward, but again, share this with someone and check out our YouTube page. We want 10,000 of you to join, to subscribe on YouTube right now. Just look up Rainbow Push Coalition. We'd love to connect with you on YouTube. Let's go on further in the Saturday Morning Forum.
The work that we have begun in this area and we've been committed to, which is continuing to serve Inglewood, the greater city of Chicago, and travel the nation, spreading our message of bringing humanity together, inspiring and changing lives. That's more than a notion. These kids have definitely been committed to that. It's more than just learning notation and rhythms. They understand that when I sing and I use my voice in such a special way with other people who don't necessarily believe as I do or look as I do or feel as I do, there is affirmation that comes. There's a sense of affirming that comes out of singing other people's music from other cultures.
And what's your favorite CCC song?
Champions.
Champions, huh? Now tell me why Champions.
Because I'm a champion.
Hey! Now, why are you here for today?
To support my Inglewood family, of course.
We love it. We love the support. And you know what? We want to thank all of you for supporting us throughout the year. It has been unwavering. It has been a wonderful thing.
let your feet get heavy. Let's go, come on. Somebody make some noise in here.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we have an intergenerational moment. Reverend Jackson, throughout the years, has always made room for young people to grow, to express themselves, and also he pulls them in. I'm being one of them that Reverend Jackson pulled in and introduced me to history, moments that will forever change my life. And so, Reverend Jackson, this week, 1 year later, after we witnessed the insurrection that was heartbreaking, disturbing, and also dehumanizing, what did you see in that moment in 1 year later?
Second insurrection. The first was April 12, 1861. It's Fort Sumter, South Carolina, fired the first shot in the Civil War. Those men were guilty of treason, trying to overthrow the government, and they killed several 100,000 people. The Civil War. Yesterday's unfinished business, today's agenda item. They did the Civil War, and when it's over, they arrested some journalists and got them to concede. But the infrastructure remained intact. Those slave masters became segregation masters. Those 13 states maintained 26 U.S. senators, 100 congresspeople. So that the unfinished business of that war, you lose a war and then you shift like a flag. The loser has to vanquish the flag. And statues. It put statues of treasonous leaders in U.S. capitals, people like Jesse Jackson Jr., had to turn them out. So we have the unfinished business. Now, on this modern day thing, a lot of people didn't see it coming. I saw it coming because fundamentally it's not just black and white, it's Southern complex. Parents and preachers teach the Confederacy in the South. They said they didn't lose the war, they stop fighting. And so there's a point of view that they mean us up yonder, we didn't take it down here. So you look at the number of states that have the most infected people, unvaccinated people in the South, Florida to Texas.
So, Reverend, I want to go back to a phrase that you just said, unfinished business yesterday is today's issues. Reverend, what is some unfinished business? What are some items that you've seen in your 55 years of organizing, 55 years of fighting, 80 years of living, which we're grateful that you're alive, you look well. Reverend, what is some unfinished business that we have yet to face and overcome?
The further protected right to vote. The South maintains several powers. Power over labor, so we have right to work laws in the South. We're hard to make less. Over health care, that's why they fought over the Health Care Act. Criminal justice system, that's why more blacks in jail. You win a lawsuit in Georgia, a high-profile lawsuit, but then you got 60,000 blacks in jail in Georgia. So the jail industrial complex. What they did was, after the war was over and Johnson took over after Lincoln was killed, they began to round up blacks, put them in penitentiaries, and they do work labor. In Illinois, we still make 600 products here.
No parole.
Matter of fact, every piece of furniture in New Washington was made by a prison farm. So the unfinished business, therefore, is how you treat blacks in the criminal justice system. It's unfair, it's related, the race is bloated. How you treat the workers. The average how to come here, you get cheap labor base down here. And the big wars, they play cultural wars and race wars. They set blacks and Latinos are against each other. Blacks and poor whites against each other. In fact, while they doing the plan, Trump is a billionaire by his own estimate. But he plays ignorant poor whites like a fiddle.
Reverend, you said three things. Number one, you said that protecting the right to vote. Number two, you said secondly that the justice system, criminal justice system, prison industrial complex. And then thirdly, the divide in America that we see exacerbated by people like Donald Trump and others. Reverend, what do you say to the now generation, the younger generation, the generation to come? What do you say to them about, again, this unfinished business that we must fight for the next 50, 60, 70 years?
I was in London a few weeks ago. I was a lady at the airport checking in to the counter. There's 3 little children with her. One little boy, he's about 3, he's a cute little kid. Came in, embraced me, hugged my leg. I dropped my head and almost cried because that little boy, 10 years from now, he'll learn to push away from me. I'm the other. So white mothers often teach white boys lessons about how to deal with black people. I mean, those guys who were resurrected on January 6th, they were more full grown. They just deep in their souls, they believe that. They're willing to kill and die for beliefs that don't stand on the ground of reasoning. So the culture divides who believes in women's right to abortion or not. Women's self-determination should be an issue for men. Not really. You got the issue of health care. In the South, a woman told me one time, I was visiting my mother, when she was dying, Greenville. She said, "Would you pray for us?" I said, "Yes, I pray for her husband. He was sick. Son of his had a leg amputated. I pray for him every day." After Thursday, she said, "Reverend, we believe in you. You ain't like the rest of it. We believe in you." I said, "Yes, ma'am." So I think we learned how to trust you. I said, "Yes, ma'am." Now, Jesse, I want to be honest now. We ain't with the Obamacare. We ain't that Obamacare, but we was just. I said, "Ma'am," I said, "the Affordable Care Act. There's no such bill as Obamacare. It's Affordable Care Act. And you're here on Medicaid today, right?" And with that, I said, "Yeah, but see, they gave you a picture of a guy you learn to despise and get to a dots at it."
Wow.
That's the exploitation. And then slick politics, they know how to
Those words, right?
play the bill, you know.
Reverend, let me ask you this. Redistricting oftentimes means we are rolled out. And redistricting is now an important fight on the city level, federal level. Reverend, you oftentimes have been a champion of vote. You've been on the
States control the right to vote, and it must be a fairly protected right. States have abused the right to vote. You couldn't vote. You could only vote on Tuesday.
But what do you say, Reverend, to those, "I don't want to vote, it don't matter"? What do you say to that young person that doesn't want to participate in the process?
Well, they're part of the problem. Because to have an opportunity and not use it is to abuse it. And so young people must know that they're more 18-year-olds than 81-year-olds. When every high school seniors come across the stage with a diploma in one hand, a voter card in the other, college is registered to vote. I talked to a woman today at the hospital doing my therapy. I said, "Why don't you?" She's a full nurse. I said, "Why don't you become a doctor?" She said, "Well, so she's a doctor, of course, I couldn't afford it." We should wipe that out for students.
That's right.
If you were a teacher for 10 years, service, wipe out debt. A doctor can't go to med school because of debt. We got 400 families control more wealth here than most of the rest of the earth. So that we must address the issue of the right to vote. What it means, if you really want to free community colleges, you ought to vote for it. We have the power, and it's unused power.
I remember you brought that to my attention during the Trayvon Martin trial. While we were traveling, you said he walked away because the jurors were not our color and our kind. Because in order to be on the jury, you got to register to vote. And it's moments like that, Reverend, that it becomes a reality. As we get ready to go further in the Saturday morning forum, we're getting ready to celebrate Dr. King's birthday. Secondly, Reverend, you've given away, you've fought, you've opened up doors for thousands of kids, millions of dollars in scholarship. We're getting ready to celebrate Dr. King's birthday and also invest in the minds and the hearts of young people. Reverend, why is education important, especially in the times that we're in?
There's no mark of ignorance.
There's no market for ignorance.
There's no market for ignorance and foolishness. At some point, we're good athletes because of the rules. But same people, good athletes, scholars, literature and art, music and physics, because we're part of the astronaut program.
Wow.
The first, the Moderna medicine, penicillin, the vaccination shot, a black woman had that, kids are called from North Carolina. She's at Harvard now, on business in Boston. The guy who detected the Omicron variant was Southern Africa, not Southern, Botswana. He conveyed it to South Africa, they conveyed it to the world. And the response, the treatment he got from it was to clamp down and put a boycott on South Africa. In Southern Africa, as a matter of fact, Botswana and all those countries along the border. It's just so wrong. And now D.C. is swamped in it, our own nation capital. People are going to jail, going to prison, going to hospitals in record numbers now. This thing is everywhere. Wow. It's like a kind of chemical warfare, it seems to me. But we're going to keep raising people like Kizzy Corbett and Doctor in Botswana because we're scientists. We've built football well for 5 basic reasons. It's hard to be a professional football player. There's so much competition.
You was a football player too, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the guys today who are on the line, who practice year round, weightlifting and all that. Oh, so the football and basketball, playing for the diva. You can inherit the yards, 10 yards, first downs. Rules are clear and referees are fair. If there's any questions, there's a replay. The score is transparent. If you have those 5 conditions, even playing field, public rules, goals clear, and referees have to be fair. Score is determining. You may lose a big game by 1 point. Everybody knows it. There's no riots after the game based on scores. I mean, people become broken-hearted. They really meant to win that week, and they lost that week. People all win because everybody can say it was fair.
It was fair. That's good. Reverend, thank you so much, as always, for imparting me some wisdom. I think the line that really sticks with me today is there's no market for ignorance. Wow. Thank you so much, Reverend Jackson, as always. As you always tell me, keep hope alive.
Yes, sir.
I want to invite you to help us bring to pass a vision that was given to Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. by the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King had a dream of 1,000 churches connected. We got, 50 major markets. If we have 20 churches in those 50 major markets, that would basically say, I'm going to connect with Rainbow Push. And in connecting with Rainbow Push, we'll do it on several levels. We'll do it by way of offering our financial support to Rainbow Push. I've already sent a check both to Reverend Jackson and to Rainbow Push because it's definitely necessary at this time that we understand the need to utilize our prophetic witness in an empowered fashion. I often say that while the Republicans are playing a game of power chess, the Democrats are trying to learn how to play checkers. Listen, we preach about power. We talk about power. The question is, are we going to wield power? Reverend Jackson says we can wield power with 1,000 churches around this country connected in investing in Rainbow Push, but also not only must we invest in Rainbow Push, I hope you join me and will contribute at least $1,000. I've done more than that, but you can do what God has blessed you to do. And then, not only that, I want to encourage you, as Reverend Jackson is talking about, we need, just as we have Sunday school classes, we've got to have social justice classes and teach what it means to unite or reunite in holy wedlock, what never should have been divorced, Jesus and justice. That's what 1,000 churches connected can do. Imagine 1,000 churches throughout this country connected, wielding power. Watch this, as one, but at the same time doing all we can to make a difference in our respective areas, being fed, watch this, information as well as inspiration from Rainbow Push as a family and Reverend Jesse Jackson as our fearless leader. So I hope that you'll join me. Join 1,000 churches connected. That's a real good way to keep hope alive.
We're excited to get more people involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in impacting public policies, if you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, you can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. For an annual membership of $35, or if you're a student or senior, $15, you can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. How do you become a member? Visit our website at rainbowpush.org and press join. Or maybe you'd like to support us. you can text the word PUSH, that's P-U-S-H, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount you feel comfortable giving. You can also call us at 773-256-2775 or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
We're getting ready to really kick off a new year, another year with exciting programs for students, parents, and educators. I am joined by Dr. Sonia Whitaker, and we want to talk about two things today. One, the upcoming Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. Two, our plans for 2022. We have so many programs that are coming for children, for students at every grade level, and for educators, and we certainly don't want to leave the most important people out, parents. And want to talk a little bit about our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. This year, it's going to be unbelievable. You don't want to miss it. It is going to be a documentary that will look at glimpses of Dr. King's movement in Chicago and the Northern Initiative leading to Reverend Jackson forming Push for Excellence. It is a powerful documentary that shares our story and will give you some idea of some of the programs that we've been working on for a number of years now that we want your students, your children to be involved in. So Dr. Whitaker, before we get into the MLK, before we talk about 2022, one of the big issues in 2022 is whether schools will open in the middle of Omicron, this new variant that seems to be highly contagious. You're an educator, you're in a school district in the south suburbs. Tell us how you all are handling Omicron.
As you are aware, we are experiencing an international crisis, the type of crisis, Reverend Jeanette, that just doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. Some would argue that this is actually our new normal. And so as school district officials, particularly January 3rd, when students in many school districts across the United States of America return, we were faced with another level of new normal that was associated with how Omicron was going to impact not only student enrollment, but teacher attendance. It's my prediction that school districts like mine and others are going to have to be prepared to continue to pivot almost at a moment's notice. As you're aware, in the Chicago Public School District just voted less than 24 to 48 hours ago that students would be remote. So again, in less than 1 day's notice, almost literally speaking, hundreds of thousands of students actually were then really placed in a situation that they had to remain in the home setting with the thinking that that would be one of the best ways to protect them. Now, our school district is located less than 45 miles outside of the city of Chicago, and we have actually not elected to go that route. And I think that's important to share with our international viewing audience, because it's important to stress that, again, right up the street and around the corner, pardon the pun, school districts, many school districts, much like mine, are actually making the opposite decision. And that's what I think makes this so unique, is how it's impacting local communities.
So now, how can you open and we have to close? What are the issues? I have heard that one of the big issues is the distribution of PPP, masks and hand sanitizers. Some, Chicago is a major school district, similar to it's third largest, similar to New York and Los Angeles. And so one issue seems to be the distribution of just simple things like KN95 masks. They're not getting out for some reason. And others are saying the whole testing. Educators say they're not getting the testing. And the other areas seems to be how do you test, and then what are your protocols for closing or maintaining or keeping a school open? So maybe you can share what you all have done to handle this situation.
Okay, well, I can start again. I'll do national real quick and then bring it back to local, because I think that's important to stress that the federal government has issued a significant amount of funds so that we could purchase the things that we needed to keep our nation's schools clean.
So
What's happening?
you mean the feds sent grants to the
Correct.
states for school districts or cities so
Absolutely.
the school districts could buy what they needed to protect the students?
Exactly. And the federal government, so that was local decision. They made the grants fund available, and we had to articulate in writing what the needs of our individual sites were.
If you were to say to the parents that are watching that are concerned, uh, I, I would say to them, give us a call if you want to you have some questions about open versus closed buildings during this pandemic. What kinds of things they should be asking the administrators of the schools their children attend, so that they can make sure if it is open that the children are safe as safe can be, and if it's going to be remote, what kinds of things the parents need to have in order to support their children. What should they be saying to the administrators, the teachers, the principals, and at times the superintendent?
I appreciate that question because I've shared before, and I think it's important to share again that we in our district, we closed the digital divide in a matter of 21 days. A significant majority of our students prior to COVID, unfortunately, did not have access to laptops, Chromebooks, etc., and Wi-Fi. Now, to answer your question directly, the example that I want to give is even though we distributed these devices and hotspots to our families, I did interact with a family that said that while they were very, very appreciative, they actually did not have access to electricity.
Oh,
And
wow.
so in direct response to your question, one of the best things that parents can do is to tell us what their needs are. Because I'm not excited to share that that was not something that had actually dawned on me. Initially, when we were experiencing the international crisis, we just thought about getting the devices into the hands of parents. And so the parents have to advocate for themselves. They have to make sure that while sometimes the schools think that we're doing a really good job of supporting you. But my favorite new line now is, I don't know what I don't know. As a district official, I want to go on the record by saying, I do not know what I do not know. And so you have to advocate and you have to communicate, because beyond providing you the needs that your students have, we've got to know what you need, because you really are your child's first teacher.
And so at Push Excel, we want you to contact us. If you have questions, you can email me or you can call us at Rainbow Push. My email is on the screen, revjwilson@rainbowpush.org. Yeah, I'm going to give you my email because I want to know your concerns here, and we can try to answer your questions. And we're going to try to have Dr. Whitaker to put on the website frequently asked questions and answers so that you won't have to wonder what should you do, when should you be alarmed, what should you get upset about. You have to ask the school, what is your protocol for closing a classroom? What is your protocol for closing the building? How do you distribute masks? I mean, how often do you give them? What kind of masks do you have? How are you going to make sure that my child gets the free and reduced meal? How did y'all handle that? Was a big deal, I remember, when we first talked about closing. And I know your district and several other districts, they had to figure out a plan for parents. If you got the child remote and you have a babysitter or another place when the school building is closed, I need to make sure that my child gets breakfast and lunch because it's on the free and reduced lunch. I need to make sure that happens. And so how did you all accommodate those kind of needs?
You know, in our district, we provided our students during COVID with breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Really?
Many school districts did not do that. Even when our students were in the remote learning setting, we had teachers, administrators, and those that support our lunch program on the site twice a day so that parents could pick up breakfast. And if interested, they could actually return. Or if they prearranged, they could take the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, no matter how many children, or how many adults, because we have a tendency to support the adults also in our school district, they could come to the premises and receive lunch. And our survey results show that we had a significant population of our students and their families actually take us up on that offer. So we added dinner to the mix.
So did you find an increase of homelessness among your students, families at your school during COVID?
It was not reported formally, but we did have some families go missing. I know that some of the larger urban school districts did that. I know there are several huge research reports out there now that talk about the families that went missing during COVID, meaning students not show up, students not return when they came back from remote learning. We had a small population of our students that we experienced that with in our district, but not significant.
We're going to have more of these kind of talk with the district leader on an ongoing basis so that you will be able to hear some of the questions you have. I need you to email me your questions so that I can ask our educational expert, and we'll have others on. Dr. Whitaker is our policy expert, education policy expert for Push Excel. And so, like many of the national programs you see, they always have one person that's their go-to. She's our educator, go-to person to tell us what we need to know. So ask the questions, I'll give them to her, and then we'll have, and if you'd like for us to talk about another issue that you find important or you're confused about, we want to help you. Rev J. Wilson at rainbowpush.org. We are here to help you help your child get a high quality public education. One final thing, Dr. Whitaker, I want to ask you, we're coming up on the anniversary of Dr. King's birthday. It's the 32nd MLK scholarship event and HBCU tour funding event that Push Excel sponsored. Why are you excited about it this year more than any other year? And it's virtual, so wherever you are, you can watch it.
I'm excited because we have an amazing program ahead of us. I think that this is an opportunity for Push for Excellence to make sure that we encourage the viewing and the participating audience to stay resilient during the difficult times. I know that we can all appreciate the contributions that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made to society while he was alive, and even now relevant to his legacy. And so I think that it's going to be important that and I think that what is going to happen actually as our participating audience signs on, that they are going to be rejuvenated and revitalized by taking a moment to view and listen to and participate in this broadcast, which does highlight all that we should still be working and focused on today.
Well, I want you to join us. You're going to see and hear more of Dr. Whitaker. You're going to hear from Dr. Malveaux, but more than that, you're going to hear why and how Reverend Jackson started Push for Excellence. You're going to hear about the Northern Initiative that Dr. King launched through Reverend Jackson in the city of Chicago first, and then to other northern cities. It's a great documentary, and you don't have to pay for it. You can certainly give us a contribution because it's our way of sharing information, but also supporting scholarships. You know that children today are graduating with an enormous amount of debt. We want to make sure that every child has a high quality public education and the ability, if they meet all of the other criteria, to attend college and not be saddled with unusual debt. And so we're going to be announcing our scholarships. I want you to encourage your family, your friends, to watch this documentary. And those of you who've been blessed with resources, we want you to donate to Push for Excellence. We're 501c3. We are an education entity. We push high quality education. We push students. We have scholarships for students that are going into the construction trades. We have scholarships for students that are looking to go into higher education, whether it's math, science, business, engineering, medicine. We have support for you, but you have to apply. And so go to pushexcel.org for more information. But join us on Monday, January 17th. It's a great day. It's 10 to 11. You do not want to miss it. Dr. Whitaker, you going to be watching?
I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be there. I won't miss it for anything in the world.
You gonna tell all the educators and students that you know
Absolutely.
to watch
Tell
this?
everyone you know. You do not want to miss out on this opportunity to stay in the know.
I'm telling you, and it's going to be from 10 to 11 Central Time, which means it's 11 to 12 Eastern Time. I can't subtract Pacific Time, but whatever your time zone, you can watch it. The documentary will also air on NBC nationally on January 15th.
Welcome to this week's Due Process. I'm Todd Yeary. This week marked the one-year anniversary of the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Rioters, at the urging of Donald Trump, attempted to derail the certification of the 2020 Electoral College vote for president. The attempted invasion of the Capitol complex brought with it threats to the personal safety of members of Congress, maiming, trauma, and serious injury to law enforcement officers, and deaths of 5 people on that day and after as a direct result of the violence perpetrated on January 6th. Former Vice President Mike Pence had to be rushed to safety while others in the Capitol took shelter in makeshift bunkers behind barricades of whatever could be used. The riots began after former President Donald Trump held a Stop the Steal rally, where he ginned up the crowd to actively disrupt the certification process taking place at the Capitol. While the world watched in horror, Trump remained silent until widespread injuries, property damage, and death had been exacted against what had been regarded the greatest symbol of democracy in the modern world. The damage would likely have been far more devastating had it not been for the heroic acts of members of the Capitol Police, especially Officer Eugene Goodman, who diverted the mob away from the Senate floor in what many agree is the single most significant act that saved countless lives on that day. Goodman, a D.C. native and former Iraq War veteran and member of the 101st Airborne Division, had been applauded for his heroism and bravery, even being awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Viewed by most Americans as the one singularly responsible for inciting the riot, former President Trump railed against the commemoration as political theater. Critical of the Biden administration's policies and the House Select Committee's investigation of the events of January 6th, Trump's remarks were clearly directed at the same political base that gathered for the Stop the Steal rally that morning, stating that the big lie was actually the 2020 election. As part of the observance of the January 6th tragedy, President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to the significance of this moment as the nation continues to heal from the shock of that day. The Vice President noted that January 6th had become synonymous with other infamous dates in American history. She stated, quote, "Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendar, but a place in our collective memory, December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021, end quote. President Biden called the riots a dagger in the throat of the nation that threatened to overturn the will of the people from the 2020 election. He said, quote, "Over 150 million Americans went to the polls and voted that day." He went further to say, right now, in state after state, new laws are being written, not to protect the vote, but to deny it, not only to suppress the vote, but to subvert it, not to strengthen and protect our democracy, but because the former president lost, end quote. Both sets of remarks are in response to the ongoing tension and gridlock around key pieces of legislation that many fear will be doomed to inaction without drastic measures. That brings us to Senator Joe Manchin, who is back in the news playing the foil in the efforts to protect the sacred right to vote and to push back against the rabid efforts to suppress the vote in many Republican-led states. Manchin disappointed his Democratic colleagues again when he indicated that he was not supportive of a filibuster carve-out to allow for the passing of urgently needed voting rights legislation. Manchin maintained his previous stance that any rules change should be bipartisan, and that he was leery of Democrats pushing a rule change without Republican support. Mr. Manchin's latest position reaffirms his place as what many have called the co-villain with Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who has also expressed reservations about key parts of the president's agenda. With the Democrats projected to lose the majority in the House of Representatives due to political gerrymandering after the 2020 census, the clock is winding down on the Democrats to get much of their social agenda passed before the midterm elections. While the vast majority of the attention has been directed at Democrats, little effort has been made to pressure Republicans to support voting rights protections, even in states where there is the possibility of tough elections in the Senate next fall. It is important to note that when the Voting Rights Act was reauthorized in 2006 under then-President George W. Bush, the legislation passed unanimously on a voice vote. Today, it is hard to get a vote to move to floor debate, much less passage. Therefore, it is incumbent upon all of us to let our members of Congress and U.S. senators know that voting rights, police reform, and Build Back Better must get a vote. The world is watching, and the people stand ready to show up again in great numbers to keep the pressure on until the right to vote and other key provisions of pending legislation are fully protected. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, Governor John Bel Edwards has granted a posthumous pardon of Homer Plessy, the black man who pled guilty to violating Louisiana's law that required segregated train cars. The law was one among many in former Confederate states, that sought to undermine the efforts of Reconstruction and maintain systemic and structural white supremacy. On June 7, 1892, Plessy, a fair-skinned black man, purchased a first-class ticket on a train bound for Covington, Louisiana. Supreme Court Justice Henry Billings Brown of Massachusetts noted that Plessy was, quote, 7/8 Caucasian and 1/8 African blood, end quote. One couldn't tell that Plessy was not white, what has typically been known as passing. Taking his seat in the first-class car, Plessy identified himself as a black man and was ordered to remove to the colored car as required by the 1890 Separate Car Act. That law provided that all railway companies had to provide, quote, equal but separate, end quote, accommodations for white and colored races, with a partition to separate the cars. The law specifically declared that, quote, no person or persons shall be permitted to occupy seats in coaches other than the ones assigned to them on account of the race they belong to, end quote. When Plessy refused to move to the colored car, he was arrested. His case became the test case to challenge the state's racial segregation laws and was argued before the United States Supreme Court in 1896 in the case that bears his name, Plessy versus Ferguson. In that case, the Supreme Court decided that laws requiring separate but equal accommodations were in fact constitutional. Louis Menand argued that this case enshrines white supremacy in law in his 2019 New Yorker Magazine article of the same title. Justice John Marshall Harlan, the long lone dissenter in the case, recognized this reality when he wrote, quote, in my opinion, the judgment this day rendered will, in time, prove to be quite as pernicious as the decision made by this tribunal in the Dred Scott case, end quote. It is against this backdrop and frame that Governor Edwards pardoned Homer Adolph Plessy. Edwards stated, quote, the fictitious notion of separate but equal remained with us until the United States Supreme Court revisited the issue in 1954 in the context of public education and implicitly overruled Plessy, end quote. He went on to indicate that Mr. Plessy's conviction should have never occurred, but he also mentioned there is no expiration on justice. Joining the governor were descendants of Justice Harlan, the lone dissenter, and Judge John H. Ferguson, the defendant in the Plessy case. Today, we celebrate the career service and public witness of Congressman Bobby Rush, who announced his retirement from the Congress at the end of this current term. A 15-term representative of parts of the city of Chicago, Bobby Rush's service to the city and to the nation have become an extension of his sense of justice and fairness, dating back to his days as a member of the Black Panther Party. Born in Albany, Georgia, Rush moved to Chicago with his parents and siblings at age 7. He joined the United States Army before graduating high school and joined the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, in 1966. He later co-founded the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party in 1968. A survivor of the assassination plot that killed Fred Hampton, Rush focused his community work on addressing the needs of a people that had been left behind. He helped to coordinate medical clinics that offered sickle cell testing as an example of his commitment to causes focused on those often overlooked. A graduate of Roosevelt University and the University of Illinois at Chicago, Congressman Rush also holds a Master of Theology degree from McCormick Seminary in Chicago. His service in public office includes the Chicago City Council, an unsuccessful run for mayor of Chicago, and his current seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Known as the one who handed former President Barack Obama his only political defeat, Congressman Rush won all of his elections by significant margins, far beyond the 61% of the vote he received against Obama in the 2000 Democratic primary. Congressman Rush's legislative successes include legislation on public pensions, conflict resolution, and community development. Additionally, he has served as the chair of the Energy Subcommittee of the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House. Congressman Rush led the charge as lead sponsor of the anti-lynching bill that passed the House but stalled in the Senate without a vote. His voice and his passion have constantly kept his compass pointed true north on behalf of the constituents of the Illinois 1st Congressional District. We salute Congressman Bobby Rush for his service, his sacrifice, his friendship, and his passion for the people. May he enjoy good success for the remaining days of his term and as he moves to another stage of service after retirement.
For me, I have a higher calling, and I'm answering that higher calling to continue my mission, my definite chief aim in life.
As we celebrate and observe 50 years of service and sacrifice for Operation Push, we are all called to stand up for what is right. As much as we tout the progress of America around the world in so many ways, there is still so much work to be done. We must recognize that there is a persistent and real threat to this progress in the form of judicial hostility and the erasure of laws designed to protect the liberty interest of all people. Whether it be voting rights, education, public health, economic justice, labor rights, women's rights, criminal justice reform, fair housing, international human rights, or access to opportunity. Standing up is not merely our cause, it is our calling. Rainbow Push Coalition continues the foundational work begun as Operation Push 50 years ago. And as we honor 80 years of life and over 6 decades of sacrifice and service of our founder, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., it is critically important that we not only remember, but we recommit and invest the best of ourselves in the ongoing struggle for human dignity and human decency as human rights. Celebrate with us as we commemorate a half-century milestone, and join us as we continue the long march into a future that is more just and equitable than our current circumstance. Go to rainbowpush.org and become a member for only $35 for an adult member, and gift a membership for a friend or loved one. This fight is real, and the fight continues, but we cannot do it alone. We need committed, passionate, justice-minded partners like yourselves to make our collective victory real. Continue to watch throughout the year as we celebrate 80 years of life, strength, and purpose for Reverend Jackson, and 50 years of service devoted to the prospect that we are all entitled to human dignity. January 6th represents the division in America today. On one hand, those who would dismantle the progress of civic participation and public engagement by raiding the U.S. Capitol were in so many ways trying to counter the countless voices and voters who on that same day changed the balance of political power in the runoff Senate elections in Georgia. We cannot forget, nor can we ignore, the dynamic tensions at play in this moment. The convergence of the history of racial exclusion in the case of Plessy versus Ferguson, the assault on the Capitol 1 year ago, the current fight to protect the sacred right to vote, and pushback against the regressive acts in state legislatures around the country, and is embodied in the noble public service of one committed to equality for all people, Congressman Bobby Rush. These should move us all to avoid the disingenuous assertions being pandered that this is a moment that will simply pass. We cannot let these tensions merely pass, but must add to the pressure that will lead to truly just outcomes and the right of liberty for all people. At the beginning of 2022, there is much work to be done, and we know that we have credible examples of those who believe in the cause and call of freedom, both in history and in real time. Let us not grow weary in doing good, but keep doing good until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. We must do it because I am, you are, we are somebody. Let's keep hope alive. That is this week's Due Process. I'm Todd Yeary.
Push Excel's goal is to inspire students to strive for excellence in education in spite of personal, family, and community challenges that they might experience. How do we do this? By advocating for educational policies that guarantee equal funding for all students without regard to race or economic standing. By engaging parents, students, and teachers in pursuing high-quality education and striving for educational excellence at every level. And by forging partnerships with community-based and public sector stakeholders in education. Now, Push Excel is a national model program with the purpose of connecting principals, parents, popular personalities, and students in a bond and to support students at every level on the educational ladder. Now, we want you to become a member of the Rainbow Push Coalition and Push Excel. Your annual membership can help us to change policies that impact students, colleges, and universities all around the country. So step up and sign up today. Membership is only $35, and if you're a student or a senior, $15. Just go to our website, rainbowpush.org, and push join to become a member or push donate to support the Push Excel program. You can also text the word Push Excel, that's PUSHEXCEL, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give us any amount that you feel comfortable giving or call us at 773-256-2775. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you. And remember to keep hope alive.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did, and what we did, and how global it was. What a speech about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, about Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
We are sanctuary. We are a sanctuary.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children.
Don't get in. Shut it down. If we don't get in, shut it down.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution. Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
We want to be bridges to end these cultural gaps.
Going forward. By hope. Not backwards. By fear.